1, 2, 3, 4. My grandfather's clock was too large for the shelf, so it stood 90 years on the floor. It was taller than half than the old man himself, but it weighed not a penny, weighed more. It was bought on the morn of the day that he was born, and was always his treasure and pride. But it stopped once, never to go again, when the old man died. 90 years without slumbering, its life seconds numbering. It stopped once, never to go again, when the old man died. Hey, good morning. We're going to learn grandfather's clock today, but more importantly, we're going to learn how to do harmonics, also known as chimes, on the dulcimer. This is my McSpadden, my beautiful McSpadden, and I've got it drop tuned to the key of C. Do you know why? Because for the past million years, I've been singing everything for you guys in the key of D, and it's not anywhere close to my range. So I thought, you know what? Now that I've got that beautiful McSpadden dulcimer, and I've got two great dulcimers to play, I'm going to use one of them in a drop tune down to C, in the key of C, okay? That way I can play exactly what I'm going to teach you, but in a lower key, a whole step lower, so that I can actually sing it, and not be up here sounding like a mouse. Okay, we got to talk about harmonics today. I'm going to tune up my bird dulcimer here, so I'll be in exact tune with you. Now also, when this is over, I am going to sing like a mouse for you with my guitar at the end of this video, so you can play grandfather's clock up to speed. Well, we won't do it up to speed. We won't do it that fast. But you can play it with me on the guitar to practice, okay? What are harmonics or chimes? Well, you've probably seen me do them before. Many of you probably already do them, but let's review. Chimes come to us naturally at the 7th fret, at the 4th fret, and the 3rd fret. Now, the 3rd fret and the 4th fret, it's a little bit harder to get those notes out. Let's talk about the physical thing that goes on when you play a chime. This is very important, and probably the reason that some of you aren't able to get them clearly is because you're not doing exactly what I'm about to tell you to do. When you fret, quotation marks, because we're not pushing down, when you're trying to fret a harmonic, what you want to do is you want your finger to go right, for the 7th, you want it to be right on the high side of that fret, right over the metal actual fret wire. We call these fret wires, by the way. This is like a wire. It comes in a big coil, okay? You'd never know that, but it does. You want to be right over the top of the fret wire. Now, when you put your finger on there, I tell my students you want to barely make skin contact. Now, what I mean is you want to barely make skin contact with that string, okay? If you see the string under your finger bouncing up and down a little bit, you're pressing too hard and you're not going to get a good harmonic, okay? So it's this light touch. Now, the other trick to harmonics is after you get the ring, get your finger out of the way, okay? Now, you don't want to do it real fast because you won't get your harmonic. There's a fine line. You got to get the harmonic and then get your finger out of the way. Why do you want to get your finger out of the way? Because if your finger is still making contact with that string, you run the risk of accidentally laying a little bit more of your weight on the string and stopping the ring of the harmonic. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a nice clean harmonic. It's just going to ring forever, okay? If I keep my finger on it, all right, I diminish that vibration. I won't want to do that. So pop, and then just get your fingers away, okay? A lot of times when you see me playing harmonics, I bring my hand way up like this. It's not for drama, it's just the way I feel when I feel like, oh, get away from that and let it ring, okay? So, on the 7th fret, I want you to take either your pointer finger or your middle finger. A lot of times my middle finger is the one that works the best for me on these harmonics. And let's do them one at a time. Your bass string, right over the, and get out of its way, okay? Now, that's not what I call a harmonic. That's me pressing too hard. That bell or that chime, that's the harmonic sound. middle string, okay, and the melody string. Okay, now you want to practice that on the 7th fret over and over again until you get the right touch. I used to teach people how to play the musical saw, and it's such a frustrating instrument to teach that I finally just said, nope, no more saw lessons for anybody. Because what it is there's a certain feel to that bow going across the saw. And I probably spent the first week trying to play the saw back in the day when Gene Mahaffey taught me how to play the saw out in Winfield, Kansas. I probably spent the first week just trying to get something that sounded like a note instead of a whack of the bow going across the saw. And then all of a sudden, whoa, out it came. And I could never describe exactly what I was doing different, but there's a feel to it. Now, you're going to wrestle. You're going to wrestle with these chimes for a while, and before you can get them to ring. But once you get that touch, you won't forget it. You got to keep practicing it, but you won't forget it. Make sure you can get them on the 7th fret before you try on the 4th fret. The 4th fret works exactly like the 7th. You want to be right over the metal fret itself, the actual fret wire, okay? Barely make skin contact and pull away, okay? Now in just a second, I'm going to tell you another one of my secret tricks that not a lot of people ever talk about, okay? So that's the 4th fret, and here's the 3rd fret. Now, folks, I'm telling you, that's not easy to do. I've done this for many, many years, and I know exactly the right touch on this Berg instrument. You'll notice that I'm not showing you this on my McSpadden because the McSpadden and I have not bonded yet. We're working on it. It's a beautiful instrument, but I don't have it. It's not like a part of me yet. It will be. All right, now, here's the secret. People are always asking me, how are you getting your harmonics so loud? Especially when I'm playing with a 0.50 millimeter pick, right? I like to play with a thin pick, not those paper thin picks. Don't play with those. That's a waste of time. Don't play with those really thin picks. You're not going to get any tone out of your instrument at all. The thicker the pick that you're using, the more tone you're going to get. But the thicker the pick, the more it's going to feel like a rock in your hand, and it's going to impede you from really having a fluid strum, okay? I always ask my beginners especially to please start out with one of these red Tortex picks like that. Okay, it's the .50, all right? Now, when I want to get more volume out of these little thin picks, what I do, first of all, when I hold my pick, here's the traditional way to hold a pick like this, right? Because I'm a mandolin player many years ago, and wanted to play really fast, I started curling my pick around just to show that round corner. And that got me started when I started flying on the mandolin. That got me used to playing all of my instruments like that, okay? I'm not saying that you have to do this, but I'm just telling you that's what I do. Okay, why? Because the more pick that you have under your finger, the deeper. Look, if my hand is the strings, the deeper that pick can dive down into those strings, and the more time you're going to spend getting it out of those strings. Now we're talking about, I don't know what the measurement of time would be. It's not a second. It's like not even hardly noticeable in the world of time. But that little bit of pick, extra pick that goes down inside your strings, you have to work to get it out of the strings and across the strings. So that's why I like to do what I call choking up on my picks all the time. So I choke up on them just like if you choke up on a baseball bat. Then you don't have so much of the pick surface digging down into the string, okay? Does that make sense? So you combine what I just said with the fact that I roll my pick around like that and use the round end of it, okay? Now I know there are a lot of picks that are round on the market and all that kind of stuff. Don't tell me what I should try and what I shouldn't try. I've tried everything, and this is what works really, really well for me. Back to the big secret, because I'm digressing. When I want this thin pick to feel like a heavy pick, I take it, let me see if I can do this here. I take it and I give it a little squeeze like that, and I make it cup around my thumb, and that makes it real hard, okay? It makes it very rigid. So whereas if I'm like this, let me see if I can do this. If I'm like this, it's got a lot of play in it, okay? If I go like that, it has no play in it, and it strikes the strings more like a heavy pick, just for those moments when I'm plucking those harmonics. Let me show you the difference. This is the way I would normally hold the pick really loosely if I'm strumming. Okay, this is me tightening up that pick. Wow, right? What a difference, okay? So if that's not clear, rewind the video a couple of times, and if it's still not clear, pop me a message and I'll try to explain it to you better. But once again, the pick starts out like this when I'm just playing, and as soon as I want to grab a harmonic, I go like that and bend it around my thumb, making it much more rigid so that I can get a harder strike on that note. Make sense? Okay. All right, we talked very quickly about these harmonics. And we could spend hours together working on them. I'm going to leave it in your hands to do that. Because like I said, you got to do this over and over again to really get the feel for it. And one of these days it'll just, or one of these minutes, one of these moments, it'll just bing, it'll pop out and you're like, oh, that's what it feels like. And you won't forget that feeling, I promise, okay? All right, let's go back to this chart that I've got in front of you and talk it through. There's one really cool thing that if you're in a club or there's one or two of you playing together, I would like to see you do this one section, like one of you strum and then one of you do the harmonic. Let me show you what I mean. On the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth line down, 90 years without slumbering, okay? That line right there, I would like to hear someone or multiple people go 90 years without slumbering, and then other people in the group go like that, and then life's seconds numbering, and then the other dulcimer players go bing bong, okay? Now if we go on down through there, especially where it says stopped, then I want one group of dulcimer players or one dulcimer player to go stopped and maybe mute your strings. You can mute your strings like that. So you go stopped and then your buddy goes. Okay, now the person that lets that ring, let it ring. Hit it, get away from it, right? Then the next player that's playing the chords goes, what's the word? Stopped, short, like that. And the next player goes to the 4th fret. Okay, so stop, bing, short, bing. And if you got like 10 people in your dulcimer group and 5 of you do the chord and 5 of you do the harmonics, that's going to be such a cool little effect back and forth, all right? That's just one of those weird Carify things that I like to do with my students. The other thing I want you to take note of is, do you see above the word slumbering where it says in period C period? That means no chord, okay? So that word gets 4 beats, we're not going to play on it. So it would be, we come into that strumming, 90 years without slumbering, his life's seconds numbering. Does it make sense? Okay. All right, now, when I played it for you in the key of C on the McSpadden just a second ago, I was playing both of those parts that I mentioned where you would divide it up. And it's a little bit hard. You need to practice it if you're going to do it that way. I need to practice it even more because I'd like to perform this song and I'd like to be able to do it a little bit faster and looser. So what I would need to do is practice that by going, and it stopped, short, like that. Stopped, I gotta strum it first, stopped, short. Okay, and I would do that. This is the way I roll, right? You should know this by now. I'd put my metronome on and I would do that over and over again. Let me show you exactly what I would sit here and do by myself. It would be like this. Let me see. Stopped, short, stopped, short, stopped, short. Over and over again. Actually slower than that because that's too fast. Until I had that just automatic. All my muscle memory and everything was locked in. Now I am choosing, when I do it that way, I'm choosing to play an A chord 4-4-4, so I'm real close to my harmonic. A little while ago I was trying it down here. I guess it works. This one, that's not as cool when you play your 5 or your 4-4-6 plus. That high note kind of takes away from the chime ringing out. Okay. All right, now, when you strum these chords, each chord and every dot above the lyric gets 4 beats. And you should be used to what my charts look like by now. I put grandfather's clock was too large for the shelf. Those are all chord changes. When you get to the second line, it says floor, and there's a D above floor. But then there's a dot above it was, taller by. There's a dot above that. That means keep on that D. And that's the first beat of the 4-beat measure, okay? That's how you read those. Now you can do a boom diddy on every chord. And in a little bit I'm going to be teaching my beginner class how to play the chords on this and introducing harmonics to them. I'm going to suggest that they do the boom diddy pattern on each chord. So it's going to sound, the first line is going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, my grandfather's clock was too large for the shelf, so it stood nearly 90 years on the shelf. That's that boom diddy pattern. Now, when I perform this at some point in time, after I've practiced it enough to take it out in front of people, I'm probably going to do a combination of that boom diddy pattern and then that syncopated pattern I've shown you, which is boom diddy, dee diddy, down, away, back, away, back. So there's like there's a missing strum over the third beat of the measure. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Now you'll notice that I'm strumming, I'm making that movement because I want to keep my arm moving nice and fluidly to keep that rhythm going steady, but I'm not hitting the strings. The movement's there, but I'm not hitting the strings. Watch. Miss, back, away, back, miss, away, back. It's hard for me to say my away backs. I play all these other instruments and I say down, down, up all the time, and so I want to do that with you guys, but that's not going to make any sense. It's an away and a back motion. Okay, hey, let's go on and try this with the guitar, and you can try to play along. If you don't get those chimes in time right now, that's no big deal. Don't worry about it. You can slow it down. You're going to have the opportunity to practice those chimes a lot. I'm one of the few people in the world that love that sound. I am a big ol' lover. I don't have multiple dogs. I am a one-dog person. But Dobie Joe goes everywhere I go. Everywhere I go. Okay, it's kind of appropriate to have a hound dog howling behind a dulcimer lesson. Let's turn this back on. We're going to do this in the key of D now for you. And this is when I'm going to get really high, squeaky sounding with my vocal. I'll probably drop down an octave to get the higher parts. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. My grandfather's clock was too large for the shelf, so it stood 90 years on the floor. It was taller by half than the old man himself, though it weighed not a penny, weighed more. I'm gonna drop down on my octave. It was bought on the morn of the day that he was born, and was always his treasure and pride. But it stopped, bling, short, bling, never to go again when the old man died. his life seconds numbering. But it stopped short, bing, never to go again when the old man died. Okay, there we go. Gives you a little bit of an idea of what that's going to sound like if you have a guitar player in your group and it's nice and slow for you to practice your chord changes to. Remember, all of these chords, you can play them anywhere you want to. There's so many different ways that you can play a D chord and an A chord and a G chord. Experiment with those different ways and choose to play the position that sounds best with your vocal or with the rest of your dulcimer group. Listen to what's going on around you. How can you add to that? Okay? Is everybody playing their A down 1-0-1 and maybe it sound really cool if you were up at 4-4-6 plus? Right? So just kind of give the room a listen and see where you're needed. Does that make sense? Okay, there's no right or wrong way to ever do anything. All this stuff. That's the beauty of the dulcimer especially. There's no right or wrong way to do it. If you hit the wrong note, chances are you're just harmonizing. Okay? If you hit the open strings, it's just a nice pad of D underneath everything that's always going on already. Okay, gang, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Rewind this and watch it over and over again. Work really hard on just the 7th fret harmonics first. Master that at the 7th fret, and then try the 4th, and then try the 3rd, okay? Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Bye-bye.